Let's start by talking about kind of investing in neuroscience and rare disease. What makes this category an investable one?
Yeah, great. Thanks for having me. I'm really delighted to be with you here today. What makes neuroscience and rare investable? I think primarily it's the huge unmet medical need that still remains for these populations. As we know in neuroscience, it's a big load of disease areas: Alzheimer's, Lewy body disease, dementia, all huge unmet areas of unmet need. And rare disease, I think it goes without saying, 95% of rare diseases don't have any therapies associated with them. And so for us, putting those two things together, it's a great place to be in terms of bringing innovation to patients.
Catherine, one thing that we're trying to understand is the effect of some of the cuts that the U.S. government has made when it comes to research at universities across the United States. Oftentimes, the research takes years to actually then go into some sort of medication or treatment. That then has to get approved by the FDA, and then that has to get to patients. It's a very, very long process. Any investors in biotech are very familiar with this. Has the pipeline been disrupted, though, because of cutting off of funding by the US government?
From an Acadia perspective, it has not. We continue to work with partners who are in preclinical and clinical stages, as well as our own internal groups. But what I have heard from some of our earlier stage discussions is that those NIH cuts are being felt. And I do worry longer term that knock-on effect will be felt, especially by smaller biotechs who rely on academia for a lot of our initial innovation. So I think for now, no, but longer term, I do definitely worry about that.
When you think about the recent policy changes in Washington, does it affect at all what drugs or treatments that Acadia pursues going forward?
I think the short answer is no. We have a strong focus on neurological and rare disease, and we continue to believe that's the right place for us to focus. Our focus is on the patients and those communities where they don't have options. And the changes in the administration, they come and go, and we deal with them. But ultimately, our focus is on that patient need.
Do you have a line to Washington, D.C.? Do you have communication with either the secretary of Health and Human Services or the FDA chief? Do you have that line of communication?
As a CEO in biotech, I think it's important to be out there developing those lines of communication, which is why I've been so involved in bio. I'm on their executive committee and I lead their emerging companies section with a fellow CEO. I'm also part of the Mid-Size Biotech Group of America, and both of those groups are having active discussions with all types of policymakers, whether it's on the Hill or at the FDA. We're actively engaging to ensure that they hear our voice when some of these policies move from voluntary to actual legislation. It's important that those voices are heard as that legislation is being drawn up, and I'm actively out there making my voice heard.
What is your voice saying right now? What are you telling them? What are you telling the group? What are you saying as a group? What do they need to hear?
Yeah, I think what we're trying to encourage thought around is that we appreciate that there needs to be changes in how we are innovating globally around healthcare, and costs are pressuring all governments around the world, but that small biotech is the lifeblood of future innovation for patients. And the policies and legislation that they're trying to apply to large pharma businesses, where I've been for the last 30 years and appreciate that there are many more trade-offs that those large pharma companies can make. As a small biotech, our opportunity to trade off is very limited. And so we're making sure that they're hearing our voice around ensuring that there are appropriate carve-outs, maybe for rare disease or smaller biotechs, so that the legislation isn't a peanut butter approach, but it's really thought through. I don't think anybody's out there to try and shut down innovation in biotech, but sometimes these things have knock-on effects that aren't thought through initially. And so we're really trying to get our voices heard so that that can be taken into account as the legislation is developed.
Talk to us a little bit about affordability, because some of these rare diseases, and like we said in the beginning, you have the first and only FDA-approved treatments for Parkinson's disease psychosis and Rett syndrome. How do you think about affordability for rare disease therapies? Is it more expensive for the patient than something else?
We really try and work hard to ensure that it's not. We have a strong focus on patient support and patient support services, and not only financially, but also people that they can call on to help them through the various stages of insurance, and whether those processes are going smoothly after they start therapy, whether they've got people to call to ensure that they are understanding maybe side effects that they didn't know about. So we really do a lot to ensure that our patient services are thorough, especially in the rare disease space. And we work a lot with the patient advocacy organizations. Their voice is so important in our rare disease community. We have a big team who's out there getting those voices into our commercial teams, into our R&D teams. And that's how we've developed our new formulation for debut. We heard from our community that they needed something different, and we got that approved in December. So that two-way communication is huge in terms of rare disease.